You ever walk away from a conversation thinking, man, I should have said that? We've all been there. Someone says something sharp, something unfair, something that hits you right in the chest, and your mind freezes. Then 2 hours later, you're replaying the whole thing in the shower like it's a courtroom drama. Here's the truth. You don't have to win every conversation. You just have to stay in control of it. So next time someone throws a jab, instead of matching their energy, ask them this. What makes you say that? Simple, calm, controlled. That one question does something powerful. It hands the discomfort back to them. Because when people throw out anger or judgment, what they really want is your reaction. They want you to get loud, to defend, to explain. But when you say, what makes you say that? You're not giving them fuel. You're giving them a mirror. You're asking them to look at what they just said. Sometimes they'll pause. Sometimes they'll backtrack. And sometimes they'll actually reflect. And that's the goal, not to win, but to guide the conversation back to a place where reason lives. So when tension rises, when you feel your jaw tighten, your heart race, remember this line. Ask them this, because calm isn't weakness, it's control. And control doesn't shout, it asks. Control the conversation, don't match the chaos. It sounds simple, but in the middle of a heated moment, it feels almost impossible. When someone raises their voice, points a finger, or throws blame your way, your body's first instinct is to react. Your heart rate goes up, your breathing changes, your brain floods with comebacks. You want to defend yourself, to make your point clear, to prove you're right. But in that moment, you lose the very thing that matters most, control. And once you lose that, the conversation stops being about truth or understanding. It becomes a battle of volume and tone, not reason. Controlling the conversation doesn't mean controlling the other person. It means controlling yourself. It's staying centered when everything around you is spinning. Think of it like standing in the middle of a storm. The wind is whipping, the noise is deafening, but if you can keep your footing, the storm can't move you. You can't stop people from being emotional, defensive, or even rude, but you can decide how you respond to it. That's real control. That's power that doesn't have to shout to be heard. When chaos enters a conversation, it feeds off reaction. The more you push back, the stronger it gets. That's why arguments escalate so quickly, because both sides are fighting to be heard instead of understood. Matching chaos with chaos is like trying to put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it. You might feel like you're doing something, but you're only making it worse. The person who keeps their voice calm, their words measured, and their emotions in check wins by default. Not because they silence the other person, but because they stay grounded enough to think clearly while the other person can't. In moments of conflict, people often mistake intensity for influence. They think being loud or forceful makes them right. It doesn't. Real influence comes from composure. It's the ability to communicate without being consumed. When you stay calm, you shift the energy in the room. You disarm people. They expect a fight, but when they don't get one, they're left standing there holding all that anger with nowhere to put it. That's how control quietly changes the direction of the entire conversation. It's not about ignoring disrespect or pretending you're unaffected. It's about choosing not to mirror it. When someone talks over you, instead of raising your voice to match theirs, pause. Silence is powerful. It forces attention. When someone throws a sarcastic remark, don't return it. Instead, ask something simple like, is that how you really feel? You're not adding fire. You're inviting clarity. You're steering the conversation back towards sense instead of emotion. And when you do that, you show them where the true strength lies. People rarely remember every word from a heated exchange, but they always remember how they felt. If you can stay calm, you leave an impression that lingers. They might not admit it right away, but they'll think about it later. They'll remember that you didn't lose your cool, that you didn't fall into the trap of reacting. That's how respect is built, not in the loud moments, but in the quiet control you show when everyone else is losing theirs. Controlling the conversation also means knowing when not to engage. Not every comment deserves your energy. Not every argument needs your voice. Sometimes walking away is the most controlled response of all. You're not avoiding the issue. You're choosing not to invest in chaos. You're saving your focus for when it actually matters. Control doesn't mean you're cold or detached. It means you're intentional. Every word, every pause, every breath has purpose. You can't control how someone talks to you, but you can control how you listen, how you answer, and how you carry yourself. That's what people notice. That's what earns trust. The moment you stop matching chaos and start managing it, you take back the authority that emotion tries to steal. Control isn't about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. It's about being steady when the world around you isn't. It's not about proving who's right. It's about staying right within yourself. Ask, don't argue. What makes you say that? When a conversation starts to heat up, most people do one of two things: they fight back or shut down. Either response is driven by emotion, not intention. When someone challenges you, criticizes you, or says something that feels unfair, the instinct to defend yourself kicks in immediately. You start forming your response before they even finish speaking. But the moment you do that, you stop listening. The conversation stops being about understanding and turns into a contest of who can speak louder, faster, or sharper. Asking instead of arguing shifts that dynamic entirely. It takes the focus off the fight and puts it back on clarity. When you ask, what makes you say that? You're not being sarcastic or passive-aggressive. You're being curious. You're inviting the other person to unpack what's behind their words. That question forces them to think. It interrupts the rhythm of confrontation. It slows everything down. Suddenly, they're not just throwing statements at you. They're examining why they said them in the first place. And that shift from reaction to reflection is where understanding starts. You're no longer two people talking at each other. You're starting to talk to each other. Most arguments spiral because both sides are defending their position instead of exploring perspective. Everyone wants to be heard, but few are willing to listen. Asking, what makes you say that? Tells the other person, without using those exact words, that you're willing to hear them out. It signals that you're not there to attack or dismiss them. You're giving them a chance to explain themselves. And when people feel heard, their defenses start to drop. Even if they came into the conversation ready for a fight, that single question changes the temperature in the room. There's something powerful about choosing curiosity over conflict. When you ask instead of argue, you hold on to your composure. You're not giving the other person the emotional reaction they expect. They might be trying to provoke you, to pull you into a back, and fourth, that validates their frustration. But when you respond with calm curiosity, you're breaking that pattern. You're staying in control of your tone, your energy, and your direction. You're showing that you can handle pressure without folding under it. That's what earns respect, even from people who disagree with you. It's easy to misunderstand asking questions as being passive or weak. It's not. It's a strategic form of strength. It takes more discipline to ask calmly than to argue loudly. Anyone can raise their voice. Anyone can get defensive. But it takes real emotional control to slow the moment down and say, help me understand where that's coming from. You're not surrendering. You're gathering information. You're guiding the conversation instead of reacting to it. You're deciding to be intentional instead of impulsive. That question, what makes you say that, works because it does something unexpected. It moves the pressure off of you and places it back where it belongs, on their words. You're not dodging accountability. You're asking for clarity. It forces the other person to own their statement. If what they said was based on misunderstanding, emotion, or assumption, the question shines light on that. If it was based on something real, now you both have a clearer path to address it. Either way, the question creates space for truth to enter. Conversations that start as arguments often don't need to end in them. Most conflicts happen because people feel unseen or misinterpreted. Asking questions instead of arguing shows maturity. It shows that you value understanding more than being right. It communicates calm authority, and calm authority has a way of softening hard conversations. When people realize they can't pull you into chaos, they often adjust their tone to meet yours. That's not manipulation. It's leadership in communication. The beauty of asking instead of arguing is that it keeps you in control of the only thing you truly can control, your response. You can't change someone's attitude, but you can change the direction of the exchange. That single question gives you a moment to breathe, to think, and to decide what happens next. It prevents your emotions from taking the wheel. It also sets a tone that others begin to follow. Even if the other person remains defensive, you're maintaining your peace. And peace in communication is power. When you stay curious, you stay calm. When you stay calm, you stay clear. And when you stay clear, you guide the conversation instead of losing yourself inside it. Calm is your advantage, not your silence. Too often, people confuse being calm with being passive. They think staying composed means you're backing down or that you don't care enough to speak up. But calm isn't weakness, it's control. It's the space between what happens and how you choose to respond. When you stay calm, you're not ignoring the situation. You're managing it. You're showing that your emotions work for you, not against you. In a world where most people react without thinking, calm becomes your sharpest edge. When tension rises, emotions want to take over. Your pulse quickens, your body tightens, and your mind starts preparing for defense. It's a biological response, a leftover instinct from survival mode. But in communication, survival mode doesn't serve you. It clouds your judgment and fuels misunderstanding. Calm cuts through that fog. It lets you think clearly when everyone else is losing perspective. It's what allows you to hear what's actually being said, not just what your emotions translate it into. That's how calm becomes your advantage. It gives you clarity while others are caught in confusion. There's a reason people remember the one who stayed composed. Chaos thrives on reaction. When someone yells, they want you to yell back. When someone blames, they want you to defend. It's a trap designed to keep both of you stuck in emotion rather than progress. But when you stay calm, you refuse the bait. You shift the energy in the room without saying a word. It's disarming. It's unexpected. It makes people realize they can't control the outcome through pressure or intimidation. Calm doesn't shout to be heard. It makes people quiet down to listen. Staying calm doesn't mean you don't feel anger, frustration, or disappointment. It means you've learned to feel those things without letting them speak for you. Anyone can react when provoked. It takes strength to pause. That pause is where wisdom lives. It's where you get to decide whether your next words will build something or burn something. Calm gives you that decision. It's not silence. It's strategy. It's choosing to be deliberate rather than emotional, focused rather than frantic. When you speak from calm, your words carry more weight. People may not remember every sentence you say, but they'll remember the tone. They'll remember that you didn't flinch, that you didn't lose yourself in the moment. Calm communicates confidence in a way that shouting never can. It says, I'm in control of me, and that's enough. It commands attention not through force, but through presence. When you're calm, you don't have to demand respect. It naturally finds its way to you. In difficult conversations, calm becomes a mirror. When you maintain composure, it reflects the other person's behavior back to them. If they're being loud, your quietness highlights their volume. If they're being unreasonable, your patience exposes their impulsiveness. You don't have to call it out. They'll feel it. That's the power of emotional regulation. It influences the tone of the room without needing confrontation. You create stability in spaces where instability usually wins. Calm also gives you time. It slows down the pace of the conversation just enough for you to see the full picture. When people react, they speak from fragments, half-formed thoughts driven by feeling. When you're calm, you can see those fragments and connect them into meaning. You start to notice what's underneath the words. The insecurity, the fear, the misunderstanding. That's how you respond with intention instead of instinct. Calm allows empathy to exist even in conflict. And empathy is what transforms tension into understanding. People often mistake silence for weakness, but calm isn't about saying nothing. It's about saying only what's necessary. It's about removing the noise so your message lands cleanly. Every word you choose while calm carries more focus, more precision. There's no wasted emotion, no unnecessary defense. You're not performing, you're communicating. And communication rooted in calm cuts deeper and lasts longer than anything said in anger ever could. In every interaction, there's a balance between emotion and reason. Too much emotion and you lose control. Too much reason without emotion and you lose connection. Calm is the bridge between the two. It allows you to express emotion without being ruled by it. It lets you listen without feeling small. It makes space for clarity, for truth, for resolution. Calm doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to respond the right way. It's not silence, it's strength and stillness. It's knowing that control doesn't come from volume. It comes from composure. It's the steady tone that cuts through the noise, the quiet that holds more weight than all the shouting in the room. The goal isn't to win. It's to understand and lead. Most people walk into a disagreement with one mission: to prove they're right. They listen only long enough to reload their next point, waiting for their turn to speak instead of trying to truly hear. But communication isn't a competition. There's no scoreboard. When you aim to win, you're not having a conversation, you're performing in a debate. And when that happens, both people lose. Because even if you win the argument, you lose the connection. You lose trust. You lose the chance to actually solve something. Understanding shifts the purpose of the conversation. It moves you from trying to dominate to trying to discover. It means you're listening not just to the words, but to the meaning behind them. You're curious about why the other person feels the way they do, what experience shaped their view, and what they might be trying but struggling to express. It's not about agreeing with them. It's about showing them that you care enough to want to see what they see. That's what diffuses tension faster than any perfect argument ever could. People can handle disagreement, but they can't handle feeling dismissed. When you focus on understanding instead of winning, you automatically lead. Because leadership in communication isn't about control, it's about direction. It's about guiding the moment towards something productive. When two people argue, the energy moves in circles. No progress, no peace, just repetition of louder versions of the same points. But when one person decides to stop trying to win and starts trying to understand, the circle turns into a line. Now the conversation has movement. Now it has purpose. Leadership isn't always about having authority. Sometimes it's just about having calm clarity in a heated room. Understanding doesn't mean you let go of your boundaries or beliefs. It means you hold them with grace. You can disagree without disrespect. You can listen without losing yourself. In fact, understanding makes your position stronger because it's informed. When you know where the other person is coming from, you're better equipped to respond in a way that actually connects. You're not swinging blindly, you're communicating with awareness. That's how influence grows, through empathy paired with composure. People often assume leadership means being the loudest voice, the one who takes control of the moment. But real leadership is quieter than that. It's in how you respond when others lose balance. It's in the patience you show when others rush to react. It's in your ability to stay steady enough to think while everyone else is just trying to be heard. That's the kind of leadership people remember, the kind that doesn't force control but earns it through calm, consistent presence. You lead by example, showing that peace doesn't mean surrender, and that control doesn't mean dominance. When you aim to understand, you create safety in conversation. People open up when they don't feel attacked. They become more honest, less defensive. And when that happens, the real issues surface. You move past the surface level conflict, the words, the tone, the misunderstanding, and you get to the heart of what's really wrong. That's where resolution lies. That's where connection starts to rebuild. You can't get there by trying to win, because winning requires someone to lose. Understanding requires both people to win together. Leading through understanding doesn't mean you agree with everything or that you let things slide. It means you're intentional about what outcome you want. You ask yourself, do I want to be right or do I want to be effective? Being right feels good for a moment, but being effective lasts. It builds trust, it earns respect, and it keeps doors open. When people feel heard by you, they're more likely to listen to you in return. That's influence earned, not demanded. That's leadership built, not forced. The best communicators aren't the ones with the quickest comebacks or the strongest opinions. They're the ones who can take tension and turn it into understanding. They don't speak to overpower, they speak to clarify. They don't listen to respond, they listen to connect. When you move from winning to understanding, your entire approach to communication changes. You stop seeing people as opponents and start seeing them as humans with their own stories, fears, and perspectives. That's where real progress begins. Understanding opens the door, leadership walks through it.